Hello everybody and welcome back to another MTG Bulk Mythic YouTube video. Today I'm going to be talking about something that I've been thinking about for a while and has actually come up on some other content streams, and that is the thought or the theory of Wizards of the Coast leaving Hasbro. Now, many content sites are speculating on the sale of Wizards of the Coast by Hasbro. It started with an article from ICV2.com titled Rolling for Initiative, and it's talking about the sale of Wizards of the Coast from Hasbro. It talks about a lot of different reasons why, a lot of the signs that they may be preparing to, and things like that. I'm not going to get into that kind of stuff. I think the article does a pretty good job taking a look at it from the side of Hasbro. I'm going to look at it from the side of Wizards of the Coast. I don't know about the legitimacy or feasibility of such a sale, but I have been thinking that they would be better off without the corporate influence of people, what people call Papa Hasbro, for some time. So I'll get into that while I open these Zendikar Rising set boosters, just so you have something else to look at, and if I find anything interesting, I'll go ahead and touch on that. But the main topic is going to be what I think the influences between Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast are. So as we get started here, I'm going to talk about what was good about joining or being bought by Hasbro. Now, in the early days of Magic the Gathering, it was a small studio-style business. They also had Dungeons and Dragons there at Wizards of the Coast. Oh, look at that. Starting right off with a signature art card, right? And by joining Hasbro, they were able to get, some professional organization in the growing of their IP, established some additional production and distribution lanes that, maybe the prior company didn't already have, and bring in capital for their R&D, help them grow their IP. Right. The other thing that Hasbro brought to them is the fact they have a massive legal team. All right, and take a pause real quick. Zareth San the Trickster. Right, this is a key rare in the Merfolk Rogue mill decks. I've been taking advantage of in my mono red deck, trying to climb the ladder there with this card, pulling some of my key creatures out of my graveyard and using them against me. So that's a pretty good pull right there. I'm excited for that. And then we have a core warrior, right? So it brings in corporate capital for them to be able to do what they need to do as far as developing their IP and things like that, hiring the right kind of people, right? It also brings in a massive legal team to protect their IP so that they can do what they need to do without infringement. There have been, several other TCGs that have come in and out of the scene since Magic has been around, and some of them have been very close to the type of game engine that Magic uses, to the point where, even there probably been some behind the scenes legal stuff going on to keep from IP infringement, things like that. They also have experience in game development and can cross-pollinate within the industry, and gave ease of licensing for crossover LPs. So those are some of the good things that brought Magic into the strength that it has in the very early days, right? And then here we have a Brushfire Elemental, a really key card in the Gruul aggro decks right now, Landfall, and things like that. Here's a Ruin Crab, also going into those mill strategies with rogues to pull so many cards off the top of your opponent's libraries. Things that can actually be very crippling. If you get too many of those crabs in play, you're really in for a long game there. So that was really interesting. Those advantages there from Hasbro as far as growing the Wizard brand and the Magic the Gathering brand, right? And then we kind of come into the early 2000s and even the 2010s, and what did Magic do for Hasbro, right? Because what we saw in that time frame was the growth of things like crowdfunding platforms, and that actually, in my opinion and many other people's opinion, there's evidence to the effect that it caused kind of the board game boom, and that was really honestly bad for Hasbro because they had a very tight hold on the market there with their classic board games, producing them, selling them, making it kind of a family thing, and all that kind of stuff. But then with crowdfunding, all these developers who had these really great ideas, honestly, could get the capital that they needed to put their games into existence. And this started chipping away at the market share that Hasbro had, right? And what ends up happening there is that you start to see kind of decline in sales. Now, Hasbro is mostly a toy company. They have their games, but usually it's all about creating strong IPs that can sell in multiple markets. And as their board game market went away, like Monopoly, you can only sell so many Monopolies, etc. And so they try to do different skins, for a lack of better terms, on those with different styles of Monopoly. And I remember seeing the 50th anniversary Corvette Monopoly years ago and thought that was pretty awesome because I was, I'm a big Corvette fan myself, and that version of the game looked really interesting. The unique game pieces and stuff like that were really fun, in my opinion. But you can only do that so many times before it's like, okay, how many different Monopolies? Like, there's literally a Monopoly for every state now, and that goes into their other properties as well. So that started that, in my opinion, that started that decline that led up to actually the fall of the Toys R Us stores. Not just Hasbro, but other toy manufacturers and things like that saw that, and then the move to online sales, the move to purchasing through crowdfunding and other avenues of approach for developers and designers to get their product out there and really influence the market. So that caused them to really lean heavily on Magic the Gathering to be their revenue stream to prop up their company, and for a lack of better terms. For the longest time, I remember seeing reports that said Magic the Gathering is the second most earning franchise for Hasbro, and it was behind Star Wars, it was behind Transformers, it was behind all of these toy lines that were tied to movies at the time, and it was behind Nerf. And now it's at the forefront. Is everything that they have. It is their top earner. It is their top producer, their most consistent producer. And then you have the current health environment that we're in today, which caused unknown effects. And that's kind of led us into like the true real negative impacts that we're feeling right now. It was kind of wrapping up there for a while, but we saw things like accelerated product releases, things that were kind of poor corporate decisions that for me really felt like they were coming from outside of Wizards of the Coast. So we have things that were decisions that came down forcing the hand. You even saw people like Mark Rosewater and other developers, other members of the company, Blake Rasmussen, that were kind of put in the limelight and took the brunt of the force of some of these decisions that, if you watch their content, it feels like they didn't believe what they were saying. They were kind of toting the corporate line out of necessity, right? But they knew that their hand was forced, and they were doing things that may not have been in the best interest of the game. We also saw things like rushed development timelines for iconic Masters, Masters 25. They canceled the Masters line and then brought Ultimate Masters back. That was obviously a set that was in development that they pumped the brakes on, and then they came back and decided that it would be that they needed another product to release, to the point where now we're looking at multiple products. We have Commander Legends that's out right now that was supposed to be released when Ultimate Masters was, and we have a second now in the winter draft innovation set, whereas we normally only have once a year. They've changed Commander release timelines. All the timelines have been changed and warped. We've seen From the Vaults turn into Commander spell, or not into Planeswalker spell books, into now the colored Commander sets with the Commander green being released right now. And a lot of it just feels like, hey, Magic has a consistent fan base and all these things, and as long as we have very creative individuals working within those teams, and as long as we continue to push their productivity, then we're going to continue to be able to make money, and we can continue to press them, saying, giving them revenue goals for the future and continue to push them. This, in my opinion, is what may cause the fall of Magic the Gathering as we know it, and that is the fact that those who are actually developing the game, those who are designing the game, working within Wizards of the Coast, that actually care just as much as we do as players, do not have the influence that they need to over the corporate decision makers, because of the fact that we're looking at things like, the investor capitalism model, right? Hasbro is worried about their investors and their capital stream. Magic is trying to make a game that we want to play and sell cards and provide cards for the formats. And that is the issue that I have with it right now, and why I believe that Wizards can leave. Now, how feasible is that, right? Wizards of the Coast, I don't believe, can just depart from Magic. There aren't enough people within Wizards of the Coast to get the capital together to be like, we're going to go back and be an independent company. And Hasbro's not going to sell them to anybody, because that is what right now is floating their company, right? Magic the Gathering is holding Hasbro up. So, it's kind of unfortunate. I am actually really happy, given the circumstances, with what is coming out of these sets. They're doing the best they can. Yes, they're kind of pushing it a little bit, but I like the excitement that develops with some of these cards that might end up being overpowered. They're trying to balance it as best they can, but with the timelines that they have, right? So it's okay. In my opinion, I don't get too wrapped around the axle about cards getting banned and things like that, even though it would be better if they weren't, right? It has been more frequent, and it'd be better if they weren't. But the fact of the matter is, what can we do as the customer base, right? The thing we can do is support the people who are designing our game, right? They honestly care about the game just as much as we do. They wouldn't be in the industry for as long as they have, been working with this game for as long as they have, if they didn't care about it, right? And then be vocal about the perceived corporate influence over our game, so that maybe we can kind of influence Papa Hasbro, right? Because into making some better decisions. But the fact of the matter is that companies have to make money to stay in business. They're doing what they can, as far as Wizards, to make a game that we enjoy playing and that they enjoy playing, to be honest. And Hasbro's trying to make money to stay in business, because they can't just tell their investors to push off, because then their capital goes to the floor, the value of their company goes to the floor, and then they're at risk of going out of business, and then we lose the game. Right. So that's my opinion on that. The best thing about that is, even if the worst thing happens and Magic goes away, we all still have these amazing cards. Most of the stuff that has happened around this game has been driven by the players, and we will have a limited and finite supply of the cards because they won't be being printed again. But I think that we will still be able to come together as a community and continue to play the game that we love. So that's just kind of my thoughts on it. It's something that's been spinning around in my head, and then I saw the article about it online, and it kind of pushed me to want to make this video. So, go ahead, leave a comment in, down below. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you think I'm way off the mark, if you kind of agree. Again, not too worried about the feasibility of it, just the thought of the necessity of it, in my opinion. And if you're liking, what we're doing or what I'm doing, please give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more content. Follow the Facebook page to get additional conversations going. And share the video with a friend. Let them know that we're out here sharing our hobby together.